in every nation's life when enough is enough. Not because we're angry, though we have every right to be, but because the silence is costing us too much. And the handshake we've been offering, it's being used to pull the noose tighter. I'm not here in a tailored suit. I don't speak with the polish of foreign schools or the rehearsed charm of career diplomats. My name is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and I speak from where the wounds are still bleeding, from villages where mothers bury their sons too soon, from fields stripped bare not by drought, but by deals inked far away. I speak today to the IMF, not as a supplicant, not as a statistic, but as a man standing up for his people. For too long, your organization has pretended to be a healer, but your prescriptions have broken more bones than they've ever healed. You hand us loans with smiles, but the fine print is barbed wire. You call it assistance, but we call it what it really is, control. You speak of reforms. What you mean is obedience. Obedience to a model built for someone else, somewhere else. A model that was never meant to grow roots in African soil. But we are not a test case. We are not your failed experiment. We are not a spreadsheet with a flag. We are a people, rich in memory, rich in culture, rich in gold and uranium and cobalt and youth. And yet, we are made poor. How? Because the systems you built were never meant to free us. They were built to manage us, to extract, to pacify, and we have had enough. Cancellation. I'm here to tell you, we reject the entire game. We reject loans that mortgage our children's future in exchange for the illusion of progress. We reject good governance that means selling our land, our mines, our dignity to foreign firms dressed up as saviors. We reject the idea that our worth is measured in compliance with rules we never wrote, for benefits we never see. Today, this is not just a speech. It's a break in the script. A new kind of conversation begins, not between lender and borrower, but between equals, between those who have suffered and those who have profited from that suffering. Let's speak plainly. Debt, as it's designed for Africa, is not development. It is not generosity. It is modern-day slavery. It wears a suit. It speaks fluent economics, but it breaks the same backs. You call it structural adjustment. We live it as structural punishment. You praise fiscal discipline. We endure it as schools without teachers, clinics without medicine, and farms abandoned by hope. And when the West profits while we bleed, that is not partnership. That is plunder. So I ask again, how can a land so rich, with gold under our feet, with rivers that sing, with minerals that power your smartphones, be called poor? Why do our children go hungry while your economies thrive on what's buried in our soil? They say we are mismanaged. They say we are corrupt. And yes, we have wounds, but many of those wounds came from the outside, from centuries of theft disguised as trade, from centuries of manipulation disguised as aid, from rules made without us that still bind us. But the awakening has begun, and when Africa wakes up, we don't whisper, we don't wait, we rise. Let me show you what this so-called debt really looks like. Not in your polished boardroom presentations, but in our everyday lives. It looks like a child, bent over a notebook, squinting by candlelight. Why? Because our power grid was sold off to foreign firms, and now electricity costs more than food. It looks like hospitals with no medicine, no working beds, where women give birth in pain, in silence, and sometimes don't survive. Why? Because your loan conditions demanded we slash health budgets. So we did. And people died for it. It looks like young men and women, graduates full of promise, walking the streets, knocking on doors that no longer open. Why? Because every job-creating industry we had was either sold off, shut down, or drowned under your free market formulas. And worst of all, It looks like broken dignity. You see, your repayment plans aren't economics. They're slow-motion death sentences. You lend us $500 million, but by the time we're done paying interest, restructuring, penalties, privatizations, and currency, traps, we've handed you $2 billion and the deeds to our future. Tell me, what part of that feels fair? You say, but you signed the contract. And I ask you, is it consent when the man is bleeding and you're the only one holding the medicine, with a price tag and a catch? Is it choice when the gun isn't pointed at you, but at the starving child behind you? No, that's not partnership, that's economic blackmail, and that's what this is. Not development, not globalization, but neo-colonialism in a necktie. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. We see you now. We, the new generation of African leadership, we are no longer dazzled by your PowerPoints. We are no longer grateful for the crumbs you call assistance. And we are done clapping for policies that strangle our people in the name of efficiency. We will no longer give up our sovereignty for loans that vanish into consultants' pockets, only to return as debt for our grandchildren to carry. And make no mistake, Africa does not owe you. You owe Africa. You owe us for the gold looted under colonial boots. You owe us for the minerals that power your cities while our own remain in darkness. You owe us for the diamonds that sparkled in your palaces while we bled in silence. But hear this, we're not here begging. We're not asking for charity. We're demanding justice. And justice begins with this: end the exploitative debt structures. Let African nations audit these debts, line by line. Who borrowed? Who benefited? Who truly paid the price? Let us breathe. Again, not as beneficiaries, but as equals. And if this message feels uncomfortable, good. It's meant to. Because the time has come for the comfortable to be confronted. You say you support sovereignty, then stop pulling the strings that keep our nations dancing to your tune. Sovereignty means nothing if our budgets are written in Washington, if our minerals are priced in London, if our futures are mortgaged in contracts we were bullied into signing. So no, we will no longer bow, not with our heads, not with our policies, not with our people's lives. They say Africa is free. We have flags. We have anthems. We elect presidents and raise our voices at the United Nations. But what does freedom mean if the real decisions are made somewhere else? We're told we're independent. But independence without autonomy is a mask. And behind that mask, for decades, one institution has rewritten the future of African nations without ever casting a vote. The International Monetary Fund doesn't rule us, but it writes the rules we live by. You don't walk our streets, but your signatures appear in the budgets that shape our destinies. You don't cast ballots, but your approval can make or break entire economies. This isn't assistance. It's financial puppeteering, dressed up as partnership. You arrive with briefcases and spreadsheets, not guns, but the wounds you leave behind are just as deep. And your weapon? It's silent, it's polite, it's conditionality. You say do just some recommendations: cut fuel subsidies, privatize water, devalue the currency, open the borders, and close the safety nets. But what kind of recommendation comes with a threat? What kind of choice is it when refusal means starvation? When saying no means the lights go out and the next loan, our next breath, is withheld? Let's stop pretending. You have become the shadow architects of our policies. You redraw our economies like a colonial map and then step back, claiming neutrality. We were promised efficiency. What we got was dependency. We were promised growth. What we got was growth. For others, we were promised reform. What we got was broken schools, broken farms, broken futures. And when our people rise in pain, when they protest in the streets for food, for jobs, for dignity, you vanish behind technical language. You say, we're just observers, but history remembers, and your hands are not clean, From Accra to Lusaka, from Dakar to Nairobi, we've seen the same tragedy unfold, water sold off only for prices to double. Local farmers crushed by cheap imports that flood our markets, teachers unpaid while debt repayments rise, health budgets slashed while consultants fly first class. And if we dare to resist, if we question the blueprint, if we choose our people over your plans, you punish us. Credit ratings drop, currencies crash, leaders are smeared in headlines written far from home, called unstable, radical, dangerous. But what is more radical than asking a hungry nation to repay loans it never truly received? What is more dangerous than a country where its youth have no work, no hope, no voice, because every decision is run past a bank before it reaches the people? Let's speak the truth plainly. For too long, the IMF has been a veto on our dreams, and our unelected power with the authority to shape and shatter nations. But here is what's changing. We are no longer bowing. A new wind is rising across Africa. It speaks in our languages, it grows from our values, it walks with our youth, our elders, our mothers, our farmers. We are reclaiming the right to write our own future, not as clients, not as case studies, but as sovereign nations. And with that sovereignty, we say, no more loans that require us to gut education while letting billionaires go untaxed. No more national strategies ghost-written by foreign consultants while our own scholars are ignored. No more pretending that a system designed to extract can somehow uplift. So yes, to the IMF I speak calmly. But I speak clearly. We will be sovereign, even if that means rejecting your money, even if it means the road is longer, even if growth comes slower. Because for once, it will be our growth. Not growth with strings, not growth that enriches everyone, except the people living on the land, but growth rooted in justice, growth rooted in freedom, growth rooted in truth. There may be pain today, but there is freedom in the distance, and we are walking toward it. Africa does not need saviors, it does not need overseers, it needs equals, it needs partners. And if you can't walk beside us with respect, then step aside, because we are moving forward. And this time, the strings are being cut. Scene change, black and white images of old colonial maps, faded flags, treaty documents. We were born into a world we didn't design, a global system built not on justice, but on empire. A system built to extract, to divide, to dominate. When the colonizers left, they didn't leave behind fairness. They left behind laws and deals and institutions that still pull the levers today. Don't get me wrong, but this isn't just about the IMF. This is about everything. The rules of trade, the systems of finance, the meaning of value itself. Who decided that a diamond dug from our earth is worth less than the software sold from theirs? Who decided that Africa should grow while others process, that we should extract while others manufacture, that we should borrow while they lend, and set the terms? Let me ask something simple. How can the continent with 60% of the world's arable land still be importing food? How can the nations sitting on gold, oil, lithium, and sunlight be begging for aid? It's not because we are lazy. It's not because we're corrupt. It's because the rules were never fair. From the start, we were assigned roles in a global play written without us. Every time we try to improvise, to rewrite the script, we are punished, our credit downgraded, our leaders smeared, our currencies attacked, our tech investments pulled. And all the while, the media calls us unstable. But what is more unstable than a world where 1.4 billion Africans contribute almost nothing to climate change, yet suffer the most? What is more absurd than cocoa farmers who can't afford chocolate? What is more outrageous than being lectured about governance by nations that still protect the stolen wealth of our own corrupt elites in their offshore banks? And yet, they call this a meritocracy. They say, work harder. They say, be transparent. They say, attract investors. But what they don't say is this: the scoreboard was rigged, the rules were never neutral, and the referees, they wear the same jerseys as the teams who always win. Let me give you just one example. When we try to support our own farmers with subsidies to feed our people, they say, that's unfair, that distorts the market. But the US and Europe, they spend hundreds of billions subsidizing their own agriculture. They don't call it distortion, they call it protection. So don't talk to us about a level playing field. The field was tilted before we ever stepped onto it. But here's what's different now. We are no longer playing to win their game, we are building our own. We know who we are. We know what we've survived. We know what we deserve. Africa is not rising because someone allowed it. Africa is rising because we are done asking. No more waiting, no more pretending, no more debt that poisons our future. From this day forward, we walk on our terms, not with fear, but with fire, not in chains, but in power, because the system may have been designed to break us, but we are designing something new, and this time we win. They say it's inefficient when we try to build our own industries. They warn us not to trust public spending, as if we haven't watched their wealthiest corporations grow fat on taxpayer dollars. Google, born in a lab funded by public research. Silicon Valley, sprouted from war budgets, defense contracts, and government grants. But when we try to invest in our own future, to create jobs, factories, innovation, suddenly it's dangerous economics. And when we stand up to mining contracts that rob us blind, they call us anti-business. But what's more hostile, us asking for fair terms. Or a company taking $100 million in gold and leaving behind a broken clinic and 3 school books. Africa is not asking for pity. We are demanding fairness, not charity, justice, not applause, equal footing. We are the youngest continent on Earth, full of fire, minds, ideas, potential, and yet the world still looks at us like we are nothing more than land and labor. But our value doesn't lie beneath the soil. It lives above it, in our people, in our artists, our coders, our farmers, our teachers, our dreamers. There's an old saying, the system works, and we ask, for who? It's time we stop playing by rules we didn't write. Time to rewrite them in our image. We're not here to burn bridges, but we will not walk across any bridge that leads us back into chains. Let this be clear. We are not broken. The system is, and if that system won't change, we will. We are the children of Sankara, of Nkrumah, of Lumumba, and of ourselves. We did not come this far just to survive. We came to thrive. And we are done asking for permission. Now that we've named the injustice, let's talk about rebirth. Africa does not need saving. We do not need another lecture. We do not need another meeting with conditions buried in fine print. What we need is a new path, one shaped by our own hands, guided by our own vision, and rooted in our own values. Let's be clear, self-reliance is not isolation. It is not arrogance. It is the return of dignity, the dignity to stand on our own feet. Even when the ground is still shaking beneath us, we are not rejecting partnership. We are redefining it. For too long, partnership has meant waiting, begging, delaying. While our youth flee across oceans and our farmers go hungry, that is not partnership. That is bondage with a friendly smile. We must build differently now, and it starts with 5 principles, 5 steps toward real, living, breathing freedom. No nation is sovereign if it cannot feed its people. How can we speak of independence when a drought in another hemisphere decides the price of bread in ours? Food is not a luxury. It is power, and we must reclaim it. That means investing in agriculture, not as a last resort, but as the foundation of our future. not just survival. Security, pride, peace. We begin with the seed. Real power doesn't come from what we import, it comes from what we grow. From seed sovereignty to community irrigation, from cooperative farms to full-scale food processing, Africa must rise from subsistence to abundance. Let every village become a fortress of food security. Let every farmer stand tall, not just as a worker, but as a nation builder. The most dangerous weapon colonialism left behind wasn't the gun, it was the syllabus. We were taught to admire kings we've never seen, but not the heroes who walked our own soil. We memorized dates from foreign wars while forgetting the names of our own scientists, artists, and revolutionaries. That ends now. We must rewrite our education systems, not just to pass exams, but to raise children who know their worth. Let us teach coding alongside crops. Let our schools become laboratories of freedom. Let every student learn not just what the world is, but how to change it. Because the purpose of education isn't to obey. It's to imagine. We dig the gold, they sell the jewelry, we grow the cocoa, they make the chocolate. This is not trade. This is a disguise worn by dependency. Africa must move from raw to refined, from just owning the mines to owning the factories, the packaging, and the profits. We must support African businesses. We must protect our infant industries. We must end the addiction to imports, because this is how we create jobs. This is how we build generational wealth. Let the world come to Africa to buy, not just to take. A divided Africa is a weak Africa, and a weak Africa cannot bargain, cannot protect, cannot rise. We must speak with one voice, not 54 divided. Let us integrate economically, politically, technologically. Let us build railroads that connect our cities, data centers that protect our knowledge, and defense alliances that secure our peace. Our regional blocs, ECOWAS, EAC, SADC, the African Union, must evolve from diplomatic clubs into engines of collective action, because no single African nation can stand alone. But together, we are a giant. Too often we fly across oceans to find advice, while ignoring the wisdom in our own villages. Too often we trust foreign consultants in suits more than we trust the hands that built this continent. But the solutions we need, they're already here, in our mothers, in our teachers, in our youth, in our healers, builders, coders, farmers. Let us fund local innovation. Let us amplify village voices. Let us believe that the mechanic in Ouagadougou and the programmer in Kigali are just as brilliant as any consultant in Paris or London. We are not truly free until we trust our own people to lead us forward. My brothers and sisters, we are not trying to build a copy of the West. We are building Africa. Our Africa. We are not chasing someone else's dreams. We are daring to dream something new. And yes, self-reliance will mean we stumble. Yes, we will make mistakes, but those mistakes will be ours, and so will the victories. Because this time, we're not walking a borrowed path. We are building our own road, brick by brick, across the continent that birthed humanity, not just to survive, but to thrive. There is no savior coming, because the savior is already here, in our hands, in our hearts, in our unity. Let's stop waiting. Let's stop blaming. Let's begin. Not tomorrow, not after another summit. Now. Africa will not rise through speeches alone. It will rise through soil-stained hands, ink-stained books, and steel-stained factories. We will take back what was always ours, not through war, but through will. Not through hate, but through healing. Not through begging, but through building. This is the dawn of self-reliance. And we will never go back to the chains. Let me speak now, not as a leader, but as a witness to your strength. You, the young, the old, the rural, the urban, the university graduate, and the barefoot child, you are not powerless. They made you believe power lives in microphones and marble buildings. They made you believe your life is shaped far away, in air-conditioned boardrooms, by people who've never walked your streets. But let me tell you the truth. Real power does not start at the top. It starts with you. It starts with the farmer, who wakes before sunrise. The mother who feeds her family before herself. The young man who refuses to steal, even when he is starving. The girl who walks 5 miles to school with her head held high. The nurse, the tailor, the street preacher, the mechanic, the water carrier, the teacher, the market woman. You are the pulse of Africa. And yet here is the tragedy. You were taught to wait, to hope that someone else would bring change, to clap when crumbs fell at your feet, to fear questioning authority, even when that authority has failed to protect you. That mindset must end. We must tear down this invisible wall, the one that separates the leaders from the people, the informed from the unheard, the powerful from the forgotten. Because true leadership does not rule, it serves. And service without accountability, that's not leadership. That's tyranny in disguise. The institutions we name, the IMF, the World Bank, the puppet regimes they empower, they don't just control governments. They depend on your silence. They thrive when you are too tired to resist, too distracted by survival to organize, too disillusioned to care. You were told politics is dirty, that it's not your concern. But every power cut, every hospital that runs out of medicine, every stolen acre, these are political choices. And when we stay silent, when we look away, we become complicit in our own suffering. But once the people awaken, the tide turns. Revolution is not always fire. Sometimes it's quiet. It happens when a teenager registers to vote, when a market woman refuses to pay a bribe, when neighbors come together to fix a broken road, not to protest, but to reclaim ownership of their home. This is your true mandate, not just to resist, but to rebuild. The right to eat without fear of famine. The right to learn our history and shape our future. The right to own the fruits of our labor, not just the seeds. The right to be heard, not as victims, but as visionaries. And the right to dream, not just to survive, but to thrive. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Africa is not rising someday. Africa is rising now, and this time, we are not rising alone. We are rising together. We are rising awake. We are rising free. Ask why. Ask how. Demand clarity. Whether it's a village elder or a head of state, authority must answer to the people because freedom isn't given. It's guarded. You have the right to organize, to stand not as scattered voices, but as a choir of strength. You have the right to information, to know who owns your land, where your taxes go, and what your leaders sign in your name. You have the right to refuse, to say no to manipulation, to say no to injustice, to say no to being used as a pawn, and perhaps most sacred of all, you have the right to dream. Not just of escape, but of transformation. To dream of an Africa where your child is safe, where your work is valued, where your voice matters, and then to begin building that dream today. Yes, leadership matters. Yes, corruption must be torn out by the root. Yes, puppet regimes must fall, but no government can save us if the people remain asleep. A just Africa will not rise from parliaments alone. It will rise from the hands of those who refuse to settle, who will no longer live under fear, but lead with conviction. You are not spectators. You are co-architects of the new Africa. You are not the leaders of tomorrow. You are the fire of today. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for funding. Don't wait to be older, richer, or wiser. Start now. Speak now. Organize now. Build now. Because if you don't shape your destiny, someone else will sell it. Your silence is not wisdom. Your experience is our compass. You've watched empires rise and fall. Now guide the young, not with cynicism, but with courage. You are the backbone of every revolution. In your arms, nations are raised. You are not weak. You are the guardians of justice. When you speak, the ground shifts. This is not Ibrahim Traoré's battle. This is not the burden of one leader or one government. This is our shared mandate, to speak truth, to reject fear, to rebuild a continent where dignity is not a dream, but a birthright, because power is not given. It is realized. And today I ask you to realize you are not powerless. We are not in a battle of bullets. We are in a battle of narratives, the institutions that shackle us, the IMF, the World Bank, the elite who never show their faces. They are not afraid of tanks. They are afraid of an awakened people, because when Africa wakes up, the lies begin to fall apart. They told the world we were the problem, that we were corrupt, chaotic, incapable, that we needed their help forever. And they told us that lie so many times, we started to believe it ourselves. But no more. The spell is, breaking Africa is not a problem. Africa is a solution, long delayed. We are not dependent. We were made dependent by design, but we now rewrite that story in our own ink, in our own hands, with our own hearts. This is not just a call to action. This is the end of waiting. Rise, speak, build, now. Because history does not remember those who asked for change. It remembers those who became it. We bowed. We begged, we borrowed, and in doing so, we forgot. We forgot who we are. We forgot that Africa is not just a continent. It is the cradle of humanity, that beneath our skies, the stars were not just watched, they were read, that before there was ever an IMF, there was Timbuktu. There were kingdoms that governed with wisdom, built trade routes across the earth, healed with natural medicine, and mapped the heavens with naked eyes. We were not poor. We were made poor. Let me tell you, something you will never hear on international news. Their power depends on your confusion. Their comfort depends on your silence. Their wealth depends on your exhaustion. So when you start to read, they panic. When you start to organize, they tremble. When you unify across borders, they scheme. They don't fear your rage. They fear your clarity. They don't fear your weapons. They fear your wisdom. They don't fear protest. They fear a generation with purpose, and that generation is already here. Something is happening in Africa. There's a stirring in the villages, a fire in the cities, a hunger in the youth that no economic policy can contain. From Burkina Faso to Mali, from Niger to Uganda, from South Africa to Ethiopia, the veil is lifting. This is not just political, it's spiritual, it's ancestral, it's prophetic. You are not just living through a revolution, you are the revolution. For decades, they took our gold, our oil, our diamonds, our uranium, and left us in the dust, then asked why we were dirty. That was not misfortune, that was by design. But here's what they didn't expect, that we would wake up, that we would connect the dots, that we would learn the rules of the game, and then refuse to play it. This reckoning isn't about revenge, it's about justice, restoration, dignity. It's about standing tall and telling the world, you don't fund Africa. Africa has been funding you. And now, the bill is due. Once you see the bars of the cage, you can no longer mistake it for freedom. Once you taste real sovereignty, you can never again settle for survival. Once you remember who you are, you become ungovernable by lies. They will fight back. They will smear you. They will infiltrate your movements. They will whisper about stability as they destabilize your growth. Because when an empire loses control, it will do anything to maintain the illusion. But hear me clearly, their fear is not your warning, it is your confirmation. You are doing something right. This is Africa's moment, not next year, not after the next election, now. You don't need permission, you need purpose, you don't need saviors, you need strategy, you don't need pity, you need power, the kind that comes from unity, from memory, from unshakable truth. Let every African leader know, if they do not serve the people will rise. Let every foreign investor know, if they come to exploit, they will be exposed. And let every young African know your time has come. There comes a moment when a people stop whispering and begin to thunder. That moment has come. To the architects of empires built on our silence, your nightmare has arrived. To the ancestors who dreamed of this day, we are awake. This is not just another era. This is the African reckoning. To every young soul listening right now, to the elders who guarded our stories when the world tried to erase them, to every mother who stood tall, even with empty hands, to every child walking dusty roads with dreams bigger than the sky. Hear me, this is your time, this is your hour, and this is your homecoming. We are not rising with guns, we are rising with truth. We are not fueled by hatred, we are guided by memory. We are not asking anymore, we are building, we're not begging. At foreign tables, we're carving our own with African wood, by African hands, for African generations. Beat drops, voice deepens, steadier now. For too long, our pain was politicized, our hunger was televised, our suffering turned into statistics, and our silence weaponized against us, but no more. We speak now, not with bitterness, but with boldness. We don't want charity. We demand justice. They buried us, but forgot. We are seeds. Africa is not waiting to be saved. Africa is rising to save itself. We are stitching together borders drawn by foreign hands. We are reclaiming our own stories, our own wealth, our own destiny. Let this message echo across every boardroom, every parliament, every institution. Built to control us, we are awake. And we're coming for everything that was stolen. To the youth of Africa, you are not lost. You are not too late. You are not forgotten. You are the authors of a new chapter. You are the liberators of today, not tomorrow. Your mind is your weapon. Your history is your shield. Your mission is clear. Reclaim. Rebuild, restore. From this day forward, let no leader speak for Africa. If they answer to foreign masters, let no contract be signed. That sells our future for another loan. Let no flag wave in pride, if the people beneath it are starving. We declare a new covenant between the land and the people, between the past and the future, between the seen and the unseen. We will honor our ancestors, not by repeating captivity, but by rewriting destiny. We will protect our children, not by giving them slogans, but by giving them sovereignty. This moment is not about one man, not one government, not one speech. This is bigger than all of us. This is spiritual. This is generational. This is inevitable. We will rise, not as victims, but as visionaries. We will forgive, but we will not forget. We will offer peace. But we will never bow. Africa, remember who you are. You are the rhythm of the earth, the light before the dawn, the mother of nations, the keeper of wisdom, the future in flesh and spirit. Let the lions stir. Let the rivers sing. Let the soil rejoice. We are no longer lost. We are no longer silent. We are no longer asleep. And so I stand, as a son of this soil, as a servant of this people, as a voice among millions. And I say, Africa shall rise. Africa shall heal. Africa shall reign, not with vengeance, but with vision, not with conquest, but with conscience, not through force, but through the unstoppable power of a people who have finally remembered their name. So help us God.